welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jillian and I make videos on minimal and intentional living. Today's video is part of a larger series that I'm doing on my channel this month, where I focus on the clothing that I already own. In last week's video, I inventoried all of the clothing in my wardrobe, and in this week's video, I am going to be mending some items that need a little bit of TLC. I have divided the clothing from my mend pile into two separate piles. I have one pile that I will be doing some visible mending on, and then I have another pile that I'll be doing invisible mending on. So for the pile that I'm doing visible mending on, I have 3 pairs of socks. These are my favorite socks, but I have worn some holes in the bottoms of them. I will also be mending my favorite sweatpants, which were actually the motivation for this video. I got these sweatpants maybe 3 Christmases ago from my family, and they are my only pair of sweatpants, and I wear them all the time for lounging and sleeping. So they have developed some significant tears along the seams at the upper thighs, and I should have tackled these holes when they first started forming, but I thought I'll just replace them when they get bad enough. And they are at that point. And I was recently looking for a replacement when it dawned on me that I really love everything about these sweatpants. They're so comfortable. And aside from these holes that have formed, they're literally perfect for me. So instead of sending these to the landfill, I decided that I would mend them, and that way I'm not contributing to any more textile waste in the landfill, and also I still get to enjoy my favorite pair of sweatpants. And I found this statistic recently from earth.org. The average US consumer throws away 81.5 pounds of clothes every year. And after reading that statistic, I knew more than ever that I did want to go ahead and mend these instead of throwing them out. And then in my invisible mend pile, I have a merino wool turtleneck. This is one of my favorite base layers. I wear this so much in the winter, and recently when I was putting it on, I noticed that there was a hole starting to form in one of the underarms, and I want to fix this before it gets bigger, because I don't want to replace this yet. And I'm just going to use black thread to have it blend in. My second invisible mend project is going to be this dress that I made back in the summer. When I made it, there was one area near the underarm that didn't get caught up with the sewing machine. So there's like a little tiny hole, and I just need to take some matching thread and just include this little bit of fabric into the binding and sew it up, and then it should be fine for many, many more wears. And the last invisible mending project that I'm going to do is on this jacket. It has snap closure buttons, and I do find that the thread breaks on them quite a bit just from the mechanism of opening the jacket. And so I want to reattach these buttons because I plan to donate this jacket, but I want to send it into the secondhand market with all of the buttons attached to ensure that it ends up in a good home, because I'm afraid that if somebody sees that they have to reattach the buttons, they might pass it over. I will sometimes pass over items if there's an obvious repair that needs to be made and I'm not sure when I'll get to it, because as somebody who tends to put off mending projects until I get quite a few of them, it could be a while. And now for the supplies, I have an old t-shirt. This was my husband's, and it shrunk up and got too short for him, and I thought it would be perfect to use for patches. So I plan to definitely use it for my sweatpants. And then I have 2 different colors of thread. I have black for my black turtleneck, and then I have gray as a backup, and I also need to get the blue that matches this, but I think that's still with my sewing supplies. And then I have this really pretty blue embroidery thread that I'm going to use for the visible mending part on the sweatpants and the socks. And I have a darning needle and some pins to pin the patches in place. And then I don't have a darning egg or one of those embroidery loops that I see people use for mending, but what I do have is a mason jar cover. So I'm going to try using this, and then I have a hair elastic that I will use to hold it in place. And those are the supplies that I think will help me do all of these projects. The item that I want to mend the most are my sweatpants. And so I'm going to start with these, and I'm going to cut a patch out of this t-shirt to cover the damaged area, and hopefully it will fit onto this. And I don't know how the pins, I think I'll have to pin it in place somehow. And then I'm going to use straight stitches. I think it's Sashiko mending technique. I'm probably not saying that right at all. And it's just basically a set of straight decorative stitches. At least I think that's what it is. If anyone is familiar with that technique, let me know if what I actually do is that, or if I'm just doing just something totally random. And then I'm going to use this blue embroidery thread to make those stitches. So this is going to be an experiment. And if you are new to mending, I hope that you take encouragement from what I'm about to do, because I'm pretty sure it's not going to go as smoothly as I hope it's going to go, but hey, you never know. Maybe it will. Okay, I have this patch in place and I've pinned it. I'm actually not going to use the mason jar cover for this project. I think it'll be helpful for the socks. For this one, I'm just going to do vertical stitching back and forth in this direction, and then I'm going to go across in this direction and see how that turns out. I have the stitches done in one direction, and I think it came out pretty good. I mean, I don't think this is supposed to look perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. It's not perfect, but I'm pretty proud of it. And for my first attempt, I think it was a good one. It's hard to say how it's going to hold up right now, but I feel good knowing that I've tried to save this item. I'm going to move on to another project, and I'm going to finish this one a little bit later this evening because I have to go pick one of my kids up from school soon. So I'm going to do this one a little bit later. This one looks like it'll be a little bit smaller. And now I'm going to move on to my sock mending. I didn't use the mason jar cover for the pants, but I am going to use it for the socks. I just remembered that I had wool taken out for this purpose, and then I forgot about it. I have one row of stitches done in one direction, and what I'm going to do now is go back through, weaving through each line to do a little crisscross pattern back and forth. Okay, I have one sock finished. It is definitely not perfect, but I am pretty happy with how it turned out. I once tried to mend a pair of socks in the past and I didn't do a very good job. I used too thick of wool, and then I also didn't do a grid like this. I kind of just randomly put stitches in, but I think this will make it flatter. So I'm going to try this and see if it's comfortable. I can feel it a little bit, but I anticipate that it will flatten out. However, it doesn't feel really bulky. It's not giving me like any sensory issues or anything. Okay, that feels really good. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of the other socks, and I'm going to finish the second leg patch on my sweatpants, but I'm going to do all of this off camera because it is getting late and I'm losing light, and I will be back tomorrow. It's the next day, and yesterday's visible mending project took a little bit longer than I thought that it would, but I just wanted to show you the end result. You might have already seen one pair of socks that I mended, but I am so happy to have my favorite socks back. And I know that I could have went out and bought a new pair, but there's some satisfaction in knowing that I didn't throw them away. And also that I actually did that. I mended them and now I can wear them again. And I kind of like that my mending adds a story to the item. And then the other things that I did yesterday is I mended this black sock, and I just went ahead with the same light gray wool. And this one only had a hole in one sock, so I just mended this one. And then this pair of gray ones, these are the ones that you would have seen me working on. So I mended both of these. And I ended up using some wool that my daughter had bought once when she was crocheting, and it works perfectly. And then the thing I'm most proud of are my sweatpants. So when I left this project yesterday, I had one patch sewn on, and then I finished the other side yesterday evening. And the reason that I put the patch on the outside instead of the inside was that I didn't want to feel anything extra on the inside. And I'm happy to report that they felt really, really comfortable last night. I wore them all evening and I slept in them, and I didn't notice the patches at all. I do actually think I might have done a better job on the first patch that I did than the second. I think that I did more stitches on the first one, but this was my very first mending project and I learned quite a bit, and that just makes me excited for future mending projects. And I know that there will be more repairs made to these pants. I anticipate that one of these days they will just be full of patches. So now that those things are done, I just wanted to work on my invisible mending today. So I will be repairing a small hole in the underarm of this shirt. I will be fixing the stitches along the underarm of this dress. And then I will be reattaching the buttons on a jacket that I want to donate. So if you have a few projects that you want to do some invisible mending on, go grab them and we can do it together, or hopefully you can use this as motivation to maybe do it in the near future. It is definitely really hard to see the mending of the hole in this sweater, which was the whole purpose because I didn't want to be able to see it. But there is no longer a hole. If you can remember it from earlier, you could see my finger through it, and now you can't. That's it for this week's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you could leave it a like. I'm having a lot of fun making these wardrobe related videos, and if you didn't get a chance to check out my video last week where I inventoried all of my clothing, I will link it up in one of these corners. And come back next week where I will be making a Copenhagen skirt by Puff and Pencil. And if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go ahead and hit the subscribe if you haven't already and turn on notifications so that you'll be notified when that goes live. And I will see you in next week's video.